Okay, dear colleagues, let's start our discussion. And first, I will give floor to Zenonas Norkus, professor of Vilnius University, because Zenonas, you did so much research about regional development, and I already used your slides, about Latvia, but maybe you can say what you learned from this and just comments about this regional development, and everything, what happened in our regions, how you see the future. Floor is yours for your introduction part.
Okay, thank you.
It's
working. Well, you know, for me personally, this project was maybe more interesting, not by discoveries, but by failures. What we did learn about limits of, methodologies which are, used for this aim to estimate regional GDP. So we just did not invent this methodology which we have used. We just did made copycat. There is, established tradition of research on this regional GDP, which is, presided over by Nicolaus Wolf from Berlin University and Juan Roses from, London School of Economy. And this is what we did is very well researched, for Western European countries, starting with late 19th century. So we just take over this methodology, look at for appropriate data, and just did the same. And in some cases we did succeeded. Just I think 100%, and this applies for interwar period. Where partial exception is, Estonia, because we did receive data only on very late stage, and did not have enough time to reflect over. So with Estonia, the problem was, I think, that during interwar time, it was one huge Ida country in northeast with Narva. And now it's partitioned into, two parts. There is smaller country, Ida Viru county with Narva, and another half is joined to this new NUTS-free Kesk-Esti. And this Kesk-Esti also takes parts of territory from other interwar countries, and I assume it is very difficult to estimate what numbers you should assign to this diminished Viru county, and how to derive figures from this new Kesk unit. Yes. Mm-hmm.
The problem is, to assign population is simple. You know, 10% from there and 7% from there, but how do you assign industrial labor? So where are exactly the mines and the factories and so on, and this is pretty difficult. I couldn't do it.
Yes, the problem is, it's not clear. For me, there was, oil shale, production sites from interwar time. Where they are now? They are now in Kesk-Esti or in this Viru. And it depends very much on exact line. So, I think we need some fine graining on this issue, but, otherwise we have, new results which show there was not so good equality at the beginning of independence. With most rich Tallinn area, Harijs county, only some 20% over this national mean then, and then there will growth of inequality by 1935, second census. But well, it's a bit suspicious about because of those our results for this Idu-Viru region. Well, okay, so I think, well, it should be maybe a bit richer for 1934, but, well, we will well, work on this. Well, what is about, well, Latvia? So Gatis already showed this. Only well, important and interesting point, well, we should, well, make this discovery, well, checking official statistic data from post-communist period to compile this database. Well, as the earlier steps, initially, we started with data series for Latvia from 2000, using only Eurostat data. But, well, Agita was, well, succeeded to find somewhere. They are very good in extracting some data, finding and extracting some data which are somewhere, you know, archived somewhere in databases, not actual version. And so we now have regional GDP, well, series for Latvia since 1995. And Gatis, you know, in 1995, Latvia wasn't most pure region. Guess what region was most pure in 1995?
Vidzeme.
Vidzeme. You know, I know.
Of course, yeah. But we know, how about statistics and so. But I have this question about Riga. So Riga is something unique, yeah. If we look to Baltic states, what you can just from your if you look to last 100 years, did Riga help for regional development of Latvia or not?
Well,
it's factor of helping, or not?
Well, no, it was not part of our agenda. We should have data about redistribution. You know, the balance. Who did pay more taxes? Well, and how those taxes were used. Well, I assume that, and you know, there are direct taxes, indirect taxes, well, and so. And of course, in interwar time, well, Riga paid most direct taxes, well. And, well, my, well, suspicion is, well, and it's not only my suspicion, it's what, well, Arthur Zeichner did write in interwar period. So Riga did help somewhat to, well, maintain infrastructure in Latgal and so on, to finance, you know, this education, well, network and so primary education schools and so on. So if you work, well, on the transfer level, interregional, maybe Riga did help, well, but you know, this was not part of our research. We just did not collect this data about taxation on transfers. Well, and what about Riga? Well, Riga always was top, but if you look this long time series, you see that Riga was best in good times. When there were good times, and good times, well, when there was a lot of investments, well, the foreign capital did come to Riga, well, because it was the best place, and of course people went to Riga, and Riga, well, got even more up. But in bad times, during, well, crises, Riga suffered most. Those Riga numbers plummeted most, and those numbers of not so well-to-do regions, including Latvia, they plummeted less. So during crises, well, those pure regions did not fall so much as Riga, because when you're sitting at very low place, it is not much to fall there.
Yeah.
So
anyway. And Riga was factor why Estonians and Lithuanians were very skeptical 100 years ago to build some closer Baltic alliance, because they said that then Latvians will dominate because of Riga. But Riga is like a tool. You somehow you need the skills how to work with this tool, because if I look how we managed to build now this Rail Baltic railway, yeah, and Riga, yeah, and so yeah, we did almost everything possible, yeah, to not take in advantage that Riga is in the middle, yeah, here, yeah, but yeah, it's already a different story, but maybe we'll then politicians will comment this, yeah, but maybe you can give, yeah, I can give the word to this, yeah, to Olaf, and about regional development and different political systems. What do you think? It's very different. What we know. In general, three very big periods, of course, wars, yeah, this is first period of independence, yeah, then the Soviet occupation, and now this after restoration of our independence. Which system helped more for this? It's of course provocative question, yeah, but how you look to this regional development?
Okay, if you if you want to take the example of Estonia and how political decision making influences regional development, then the case of Ida-Virumaa, Eastern Vironia is the best example, actually. You have oil shale there. Oil shale can be proceeded to gasoline, to gas. You might even produce uranium from oil shale. So in the interwar period, there was the idea, okay, we can use oil shale and get a little bit independent from certain imports, mainly coal. We want to replace coal and gasoline, and that's the reason why in the beginning of the 1920s, the region, Ida-Virumaa, was more or less like any other rural region in the country, but in the mid-1930s showed already strong development. But this political decision meant there were subsidies and protection by customs. So the taxpayer paid for this development, and oil shale is not sustainable from an ecological perspective. And some years later, Stalin detected Estonian oil shale, and together with Molotov made a decision after the annexation of Estonia, we have to foster the Estonian oil shale basin, and production should go up 5-6 times. So after the war, the first post-war plan, the 5-year plan of reconstruction, was implemented, and nearly all investment in Soviet Estonia went to the Tallinn region and into the oil shale basin, and 40% of this investment was military investment, because the biggest single investment was an uranium enrichment facility in the northeast. In Sillamäe. So it was for Stalin's nuclear bomb policy. The facility operated until 1991. So it was Stalin's decision, we have to develop this region, and because there was heavy fighting in World War II, and most of the people have left the region, it was repopulated mostly with Russian-speaking immigrants. And so it became the second richest region in Estonia, based on an unsustainable development of the oil shale industry. Politicians can foster a region, and politicians can strip a region from support, and this is what happened in the 1990s when oil shale production was reduced, subsidies were reduced. I think I still pay for for oil shale support with my taxes, but not as much as previously. So this second most developed region, well, is nowadays the most problematic in the country. So it's also political decisions.
Yeah.
And history.
Yeah, very interesting. And the same we can say, for example, this Kurzeme region in Latvia in Soviet occupation period. And of course, they just made this like a closed region, and then it was limits to visit this. But from other side, from this environmental protection perspective, if we look now, it was not so bad for this. So always that the same we can say that sometimes this geopolitical turbulence and then some changes, in long-term, perspective, help us somehow, to do something. Of course, this is provocative, but sometimes the same is with Riga. Karl Ulmans had dreamed to remove all German architecture and build modern Latvian buildings, And because of Soviet occupation, we can say, then Ulmans did achieve this, So it's a paradox, of history that sometimes, somehow we, some long term, we know how this German architecture.
Okay, but with my example, the Narva region, take this. Nowadays, less than 5,000 persons out of a workforce of 700,000 are employed in the oil shale industry. But more than half of the ecological footprint of Estonia is produced by the oil shale industry. So less than 1% of the workforce. For each person working in oil shale, you have a more than 50 times bigger ecological footprint than for any other sector of the economy.
Okay, for me, I can say good news, because if you will start estimations of Soviet losses, this is one from factors what we can do. I lead this commission now in Latvia, and we can make this together, and then if it was decision of Molotov and Stalin, perfectly fit for us,
It doesn't work like this. I'm a member of the same commission in Estonia, and at first we had a long talk with a lawyer, and things like wrong decisions in industrial policy, they do not fit into compensation. You just have the Hague Convention on occupation, and then you have private law, and it doesn't matter.
Okay. This we'll discuss later. But Agita, please. I know that Agita visited almost all countries in the world, and you learned a lot of different regions in the world. But it was like my question. But I know you prepared some slides. You have some introduction or some feedback from what we discussed already. You have some slides, yes? You want to show them?
Yes, but I have slides about the cities in the context of special development of the country, but I think that I will keep later my slides. But if the question about what we can take and bring from other countries, at first I would like to mention that a broader perspective enable a more objective assessment of the situation, that this is very important. And the second, which I would like to highlight based on my experience, that it's very important how every one of us are introducing with our country foreigners. From my experience, when I studied in the States and in India, I understood that if I want to provide some input for my country, then I will start my introduction that I am from Europe. because it helps people to recognize, and it simplifies the knowledge where I am from, that I am from Europe, and then I can start to say that I am from Latvia. If I will say just I am from Latvia, okay, he say, oh yeah, great, and it's fine.
Sounds good, yeah.
I will not get any feedback from this discussion, but I think it's important how we are thinking, what we would like to reach, and also another point, it's important if we are comparing something, then why we are doing, and in what kind, what's the reason. And 15 years ago, I visited Gambia. And it gave me a very hard footprint, if I can say in such words, when I saw that the local people in the market bought only a handful of rice for the family. And then you are starting to compare the situation in Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and in part of Africa. Or another example, many of our inhabitants are not so satisfied with the quality of the roads, with the traffic. But there are many countries when you need 3 or 4 hours to reach 100 kilometers. But of course, at the same time, we can compare that maybe a high-speed train will complete the distance in some 20 or 30 minutes. Yes, I think that in my mind, Latvia and also Estonia, Lithuania we have very good conditions for the living and for developing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I agree with you, of course, and you should visit really different countries in all the world, yeah, and in Asia and South America and Africa, and then you can learn this, yeah. But of course, our expectations, because only a couple of 100 kilometers, yeah, we can visit different other countries and look to development there. And of course, it's very connected what happened in the last 100 years with our countries. We already discussed this yesterday, that potentially without this geopolitical catastrophes in Latvia will be today about 5 million of inhabitants, yeah, and from them at least 4 million Latvians, yeah, so like, and so it's a reality, yeah, it's a reality, but at the same time, if we look to this a little bit more philosophically, then of course our footprint to this, yeah, maybe it's good, yeah, in general for our planet that we have less population now in Latvia we had in the beginning of 20th century, yeah, and then the same we can say about number of industries, number of pigs, yeah, or cattle and so. But okay, Agita, you're sitting between 2 politicians, yeah, and yeah, a perfect place, and yeah, and yes, and then both of them were involved in political decisions and in reforms in Latvia in last decade, in 5 years ago, and Juris Pūce already before elections promised that he will initiate this administrative regional reform, and in the same time this Harijs, you were this mayor of municipality, yeah, and because of this reform, because you really lost your municipality, yeah, and yeah, and then so, and of course it's a bit provocative, but maybe this was so because of that we have now one very active member of Latvian Parliament, yeah, and perhaps we will have one very active member of European Parliament, yeah. But just maybe I will give a word to you. You can comment, yeah, what you think about this regional development, about what you learned, yeah, to be this head of municipality now in the Latvian Parliament, and yeah, you can use this maybe for elections, yeah. Yeah, both of you can use this. Why not? Because our public broadcast is not streaming us, because they said that no, it's dangerous for us, 2 persons, yeah, participating in elections, and so, yeah, and so I tried to discuss with them, but okay, yeah, okay, Yeah, for us it was much more important how both of you here for discussion. Yeah, but Harijs, yes, no, your perspective of this question of regional development and.
First of all, thank you for inviting me to this panel. It's an honor and it's really nice to have scientists and politicians. But I think if we talk about regional development, we lack one important player here, and it's entrepreneurs. And regarding how politics can affect and influence regional development, election is coming, and every politician will say we can do everything, and we will do everything. And also, society often expects that politicians will change things for the better, like dramatically. On the other hand, when we looked at the data you showed previously, the growth of GDP was fairly constant, both in the years of occupation and now. Okay, the speed of growth was higher now, but more or less the growth was there. Also, you showed the data where there's the GDP in regions as a percentage of the total GDP of the country, and when you looked at on the period of the 1930s and in the period of nowadays, actually the comparative differences between regions and the capital have not changed much. So does policy affect regional development at all? and I think we should set some ground rules in this one. So actually I have a strong belief that regarding these issues, especially in democracy, policy cannot affect much. What politicians can do, they can make the lives of the people better. But as a growth, as a GDP, not that much. Of course, there are examples, as you mentioned, for the oil shale or decision. Let's say, okay, now there's a political decision. Let's focus on growing pigs, for example, or we can make a political decision. We see that there's a problem with depopulation. Let's make a political decision that people cannot use tractors stronger than 80 horsepower for getting their harvest. So you will need more people on the fields. So there will be more people living in the regions. That's an option in a sense. But it will stop depopulation. Will it increase productivity? Most likely not. So there is this sort of dilemma in this aspect. I believe that public sector, in a sense, of course, is responsible for growth, for development, also regional development. But in general, public sector, in theory, is not responsible in a direct way. What public sector should do is work or counteract potential crisis, slow down some natural effects, like, let's say, depopulation. That's the job of the public sector, to take countermeasures to this problem, so that the free market is too wild, and so that it wouldn't make everything collapse. What we can do, we can make policies on let's say education, mobility, and so on. But the public sector will not stop the world from spinning. So we are limited into how we can improve or let's say regional development. I remember 2 years ago you used this example of versus village in our documentary, and there are no people more, and theoretically it was possible with some actions, political actions, to keep people there or not, or it's just general trend. Well, I represent a party that's like mainly based in regions, and what I'm going to say now is not going to sound good for me. But the case with Versis village, it's what what public sector can do in those cases is sort of take a palliative care, basically make the end nicer.
Yeah, yeah. It was the idea to pay like salaries for people who really agree to stay in countryside. Maybe some rich countries can do this, but if we speak about sustainability.
Yeah, but okay. Well, let's not make it so grim. All in all, this when what I was talking about is basically GDP growth and like this material development, but. We know that country, nation is something more than just GDP, and there's also our culture, or which is often like the song and dance festival. You know, it's basically it's rooting from the regions. So if we want that to be here, if we want to stay Latvians, Lithuanians, and Estonians as we are, we have to take care of that heritage, and here policy plays quite a high role. Also, Europe in general says that we need cohesion. We need to support the regions that are weaker, and I just sometimes there's again a contradiction. In the European level, we say that Latvia is, and the Baltic states in general, are the border area. We are a bit underdeveloped compared to the average of the EU, so we need more support to catch up. And then when those planning documents and finances come to our national level, then we sort of forget that Latvia as well is built just like Europe. We have the richer center and then the regions. So these are the policies that again affect it. But will they play a sort of distinctive role? Will there be a boom in development because of these policies? I think not.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Yes, I would like to add one note about the public sector. In my mind, there are many cases when public sector is going in providing services and goods for society, which can be provided by the private sector, by the private business. And this is the problem not only for the rural areas, but also for the cities. And this destroys this business environment and competition for the private sector.
The public sector has a huge influence on economic development, an enormous influence in the form of institutions. Institutions matter, institutions are the rules of the game. You need laws, regulations, and so on. And a good example is the development in the Baltic states over the last 35 years. Which country made the quickest reform and built up in the quickest possible way efficient institutions? Yeah? And from our data, you see that Estonia in the 1990s was #1. And they were #1 not because Estonians work harder or because our song festival is better. No, not. It's not better, but because Estonian politicians made a decision to have the reform as quick as possible and to establish efficient institutions as quick as possible, while the whole process in Latvia and Lithuania lagged temporarily behind. And later, Lithuania took over. Yeah? But politicians are responsible for efficient institutions.
I totally agree with you, definitely. But I have heard numerous theories of what happened to the Baltic states, and do you have any data that supports your claim at the moment?
If you go through the standard literature on transition, you will figure out that initially there were two parties, a slow transition and a quick transition, and institution building. Later on, the countries who became very clear, the countries who transformed the fastest and built up democratic and efficient institutions the quickest, having the lowest corruption, etc., were the most successful in the transition period. And this is agreed in the literature. You might start with Anders Åslund and others.
And what's happening now in the 2020s to Estonia then in that case?
I better do not comment on our stupid governments of the last years. They are really stupid.
Okay, Juris, yeah, we already started discussion in several directions, but yes, what do you think about this, and can we really influence some trends, global trends, with some initiatives, with some governmental initiatives, with some reforms, something like that, or this is just a reaction, yeah, for we just reacting to something what will happen, yeah, and then we can just make this a bit slower or so. But what do you think? What do you think about this? What regional development and the reform? Maybe you can grade or this previous regional administrative reform, if you to 10, yeah, how you can grade this? And yeah, floor is yours now.
First of all, thank you for inviting me, and it's a very marvelous discussion, and being the last one is even more marvelous. You can listen to everybody else and then respond to them, not thinking about what you actually wanted to say. I'm not a history scholar. I'm really much like history. I have read a lot about it, and I know about Latvian economic history from the books of Edmunds Krastīņš and Gatis Krūmiņš and Ivar Strang, who is not here. But I'm not read the things that you have all read, and I don't know all the data. So in general, I'm a politician. I'm not running an election, so you will not be able to vote me for in 8th of June, but in general, as a politician, I consider myself as you had a good example. There is always in every single multi-party political system, there are actually two major parties, all of them grouped in two groups. One of them is called Move Faster, the other one is called Move Slower. And I have always been in the group Move Faster. That's a fact. Move faster. This is a fact in the 90s and also in 2020s and also in 1920s. But if the system, when the system, political system is young, it's much easier for a group move faster to gain upper hand and say we should move faster because we had very huge problems. If there are huge problems, you can always say you need move faster, otherwise you die. If everything is more or less, then move slower gains the upper hand. It always happens in every single political system, democratic political system.
So we need some deep crisis now for
we have had not one over time, and always when the crisis comes, we move faster. I would myself personally believe that it's necessary to move faster even there are no crises. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, fortunately, all the people have to decide on that. And if people don't want to move faster, that's their right. That's their right. Not to move faster, move slower. That's their right. And they can decide and take a decision, move slower in general. In that sentence. Whether it is possible in general trend, the general trend is if you look all over OECD, there are a lot of data on regional imbalances. I don't know, 100 years ago there were no OECD data. 100 years ago, maybe there will be if you continue working, broaden the scope.
Nowadays, to estimate, 19th century.
Yeah. But in general, there are a lot of data especially for the last 30 years on regional development. And if you look at all the OECD countries, almost in every single country, the regional disparities have grown. There are multiple reasons why. There are a lot of literature on that. That I have studied, a lot of literature on that. And this is an area where there are underlying trends that said that. And Harijs mentioned it quite well. There are the traditional industries like agriculture, forestry. They require much less human labor as it used to require because of technological advances. You cannot turn back time and say you will plow the land by horse and then we will get back people. We will not get back people because they will receive very small salaries if they will plow by horse. You need to go with the technological advances, but it brings the necessity of much less people in traditional industries. So, and the regions have very small, limited availability to replace this employment. For example, to set the manufacturing without the help of central government. The central government plays an enormous role in that. And there are a couple of countries who have succeeded to diminish this. For example, Finland. Finland is one of the few countries in the world that has diminished regional disparities. They have done it by a very big central government investment, setting strategies for every single big region, not 100 regions, but 4. Setting strategies for every region, concentrating resources, and investing. But there are a lot of literature on Finnish economy who say this policy has limited the growth. There is smaller regional disparities, but overall growth of Finnish economy because of that has been smaller if it had not been that kind of investment. This is a choice every single country should make. Do we see, because if you take, there is always, investment has opportunities. Public investment, if you took an infrastructure, that's not so calculated many times. But you can take a calculation and say whether it is more good to invest, for example, in public hospital in Riga or in Valmiera. And you can very precisely calculate the economic effects of that. But there are not only economic effects for public investment. For private investment, it's always only economic effects in place. So you either subsidize the choice by a central government means, or you will actually go with the flow and the money will flow where the biggest returns are. That's always so. The private investor wants to make money. You can make it, you can do it anywhere. So this is a choice. It's a choice, but in general, we should understand that it will at some point limit the growth if we make a choice. If you make a smart choice, the limits can be very small. For example, if we understand what are the strategic edges of competitiveness for each of the region, and it's not, for Latvia's case, very much well-educated regional workforce. It's not a case. We should be clear about that. It's not a case of very well overdeveloped public infrastructure. So we should find competitive advantages for each of the region, in Latvia's case most probably 5, and concentrate the investment in the right direction. We will diminish or minimize the effects that these underlying currents will have, whether we'll be able to overturn it and minimize the increase of regional disparities. That's a very hard question to answer.
Okay, definitely politics cannot stop ongoing trends, and urbanization is a general trend and so on. But when it comes to regional development, there is a nice example from the Soviet period. The collective farms in the 1960s and especially in the 1970s could act more freely than state enterprises, because they were a collective enterprise. So they started to work in construction, and they started to build up collective farm industries. And one reason was that agriculture became a little bit more efficient, and you also, well, you keep your people busy by this. But collective construction in Estonia led to the most interesting construction projects. If historians of architecture are searching for the pearls of Soviet architecture, it's mostly collective farm construction. It's really funny. And those collective farm small industries also were relatively successful. The interesting thing is, in some villages, the remains of collective farm industry are still operating with a new owner, and they are successful. So my wife is working in such an enterprise, which somehow dates back to collective farm industry. And small industry in the countryside has an advantage. Workforce might be paid a little bit less because the cost of living is much lower, etc. Or if they got equal pay, they can buy themselves a house instead of living in a flat and things like that. So maybe with some tax advantages, if you settle down your production line, not in the outskirts of Riga, but nearby Valmiera.
If I may add, I think in every single strategy, the first thing that you should always do is think about what you can keep from that you already have. There are a lot of, actually, in Latvian rural, if you look at, for example, manufacturing these days in Latvia, there are a lot of very competitive, highly exporting companies which are situated in rural areas, if you look in the great, not in Riga, let's say that, yeah. And for that purpose, you should concentrate on what is important for them to be competitive. Not in most instances, it doesn't mean directly subsidizing. I have talked to the regional entrepreneurs for many years, and they have always changed what they want. At times go by and say, for the last 5 to 6 years, the major issue they always say is workforce, availability of workforce. That's a major issue that they have, especially if you have a relatively high-value production there. You need to have a skilled labor, and the problem of skilled labor is not only in rural areas all over Latvia, but in general, in rural areas concentrates more. The problem is bigger. But they get by, and you should concentrate on them and help them achieving the things that they lack because of the fact that they are regionally based, that they would never lack if they would be, for example, in Riga. And the skilled workforce is one good example. That means, for example, concentrating on education availability, especially vocational education availability, which is very important for manufacturing, which is a very good way to keep a sustainable way of regional development, because manufacturing enterprises, they need to compete on global scale. Even if they sell everything in Latvia, they still have competitors from all over the world coming to your country and selling the same goods. And if they need to be competitive, they need to be competitive globally, or at least regionally, meaning not regionally Vidzeme, but regionally like northern part of Europe. And for that purpose, it's much more sustainable than, for example, having a big number of public sector subsidized jobs, which is not sustainable solution. What will happen with those jobs if the money dries up? Which has happened in Latvia for many times and will happen again, because we have right now a large number of not really sustainable public sector jobs with very low pay, but large number of employment. Yeah? And this is an issue that's good, to concentrate on those who already work there. That's like if you work with how to attract investment to your country. the best way is to start with those who have already invested in your country. You will get 80% of return from them because they already know you, they know the regulation, they have a management team there, they don't need to invent that. If you will spend 80% of resources on attracting new ones, but gain only 20% of return, concentrate on those who are already working here, and they will get the best results.
Okay, we can slowly move our discussion to this future part, and what we can learn from history. We had in the Baltics, and especially in Latvia, in 100 years, several waves of migration. People immigrated from Latvia, like refugees in war situations, but then because of economic conditions, they came back here. We know the Soviet occupation period, huge immigration here from Soviet Union. Then people moved to these European rich countries, yeah, Estonians to Finland, yeah, Latvians to Ireland and other countries, and Lithuanians to Germany, other countries, and maybe this can be one from theoretical solution for future, because everyone, if we look to future and say about Latvia, because of climate change, so climate will be better, it will be perfect place where to stay, yeah, it's democracy, yeah, we try to allow people do more things than in other countries, yeah, and we will be maybe not so fast how our ambitions, we will always be richer, 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 and maybe we can just open our borders, yeah, but of course, then, of course, it's another thing, yeah, but I learned from my village, Ledurga, that it was factory some years ago, and then they attracted 30 people from it was from Vietnam, yeah, and it changed environment very significantly, because from one side, of course, everyone was happy that something is happening there, yeah. Another, yeah, you can see them, yeah, in environment, and people are confused, yes, partly, yeah, and it was totally different situation. What do you think? Yeah, you are ready to comment this about this migration, like, because we know in Latvia, a lot of people in Soviet occupation period moved from Latgale to Vidzeme, yeah, and so people just moving, yeah, and then they're able to do this, and only reason why Latvians didn't emigrate from Latvia in Soviet occupation period, the borders were closed, yeah. And that just was a reaction now, yeah. But what do you think about this? Yeah? Did you try maybe in Mazsalaca?
So again, what you said, those are facts and those are true, but it's sort of getting a bit political at the moment. Yes, we are not going to escape to the climate change, where the movement of people will be higher in most likely the upcoming decades, and then I'm more of that political side that wants to go slow and so on, and I would look really carefully on that, because also from what Juris mentioned, what we need in the workforce, we need skilled, motivated, educated people who are running from drought or storms or whatever. Most likely only a small percentage of that will be the ones that we are looking for, actually. But as I heard from Juris' perspective, most likely he said, let's get ahead of time and open the gates and bring them here before the problem starts. I would be really careful with that. I said that we have to prepare. We have to be ready for that. It's a fact. It will happen. We have to be ready for that, and we have to use this time to prepare. The same as we are now preparing on our borders. God knows what can happen. We have to get ready. That's the same issue. We have to get ready, educate ourselves, educate our children, put some potential systems in place, but we still have to be a bit careful, because, as you said, locals might not be as open to these ideas momentarily. So it takes time. So the big question is, we want to be rich or we want to be happy? Because most likely as a society we won't get both.
Well, Gatis' question was what we can learn from history about future. Well, I think my observation may be relevant. So among those former communist regimes, so East German was more stable in the sense there was least inside internal opposition. And one of those all communist regimes, one of them is surviving still in Cuba. Why Cuban regime is so stable? So in both cases, the reason is that, dissidents can emigrate from Cuba. There are not many dissidents in Cuba. Dissidents are in Miami and prospering. And people from Eastern Germany who wanted, better life, they did manage to emigrate despite Berlin Wall. So I think that, assumption is that if Putin's regime will not collapse, if will collapse and Russia will fragment and so on, so what I will say now doesn't apply. But if will not collapse, I think our prospect, we will become Baltic countries Miami from opposition, for dissidents from Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. Ukraine is a specific case. There is war, borders for men are closed and so on, but when people get opportunity to get somewhere to the east, they will come here. We have all those experiences in Lithuania. Well, when this last election, in Belarus was, there was a lot of goodwill on part of the Lithuanian government to help this opposition. So borders were opened for all. Welcome to Vilnius. Now we have a huge Belarusian colony in Vilnius, some 100,000. And it's in one sense it's good, good. Many of them are educated. They have skills in international technologies and so on. There are Belarusian firms registered, not in Belarus now, of course, and so on. But there are also, political problems, because they say, Vilnius, Vilna Nasha. Vilna Nasha, that is specific, because of those, Lithuanian and Belarusian relations. But, my impression is that people who will not want to live under these Putin regimes, and there is really a lot of people who won't stay in Russia, and they will use some better place. They maybe will come here, and we will have this educated, good, well-motivated force. But again, it was Slavonic workforce, and we will have again the irony of history. So we will escape from this empire, to remain with our cultures, clean and so on. Do not have this immigration, but nevertheless we will have it again.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, but what mentioned one from our demographs expert, Ilmārs Mežs, he always said that we will not reproduce ourselves, then our nation, somebody else will sooner or later reprise in our territory. So, and yes, because it's not a very bad, it's a good place where to stay, where to live, yeah, and be happy, yeah, and yeah, it's just our decision. And there are a lot of course, discussions, and yesterday that we should support somehow new families and so on, if they will be available to have some floods and something like that, but history teaches, for example, when we really raised this quality of life in Latgale, then significantly decreased number of children there. Yeah, so it's like a paradox. You can pay, but you cannot buy children. Yeah, because in a rich society there are different alternatives what to do. So I think that it's not only about money; it's about mindset, about everything. Yeah, about this value system what we have, because there are different choices. Yeah, okay, we can pay for this. Yeah, somebody maybe will follow this action. Yeah. And so, but somebody not, yeah. Okay, but it's maybe is some comment. Yeah, some comment or a question. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question to Zenonas Norkus, but before a very short advertisement. Last year I wrote essay, Why Latvia Cannot Do Better, where I analyze the situation you briefly touched, available in English on Economists Association homepage. But question to Zenonas Norkus is, did you have some difficulties putting together data for Lithuanian regions, I mean Klaipėda and Vilnius, and what kind?
Yes, thank you for this question. Well, it's a very interesting issue. I would start to begin, we had in interwar, Lithuania, a kind of Latgale problem, but with opposite sign. Our Latgale was in west, and it was Memmerland. In Latvia, Latgale Catholic and underdeveloped. In Lithuania, this western Lithuania, Klaipėda, 2 times more developed than remaining Lithuania, and Protestant, and looking to Germany then. And Lithuania did work it a lot to integrate this own Latgale, good Latgale, super good Latgale, but failed well. And I think Latvia was more successful than in integrating this real bad Latgale. Well, so there was one problem with integrated statistics of this western part, but this relates only for years before and after inclusion of Klaipėda for the period when Klaipėda belonged to Lithuania, 1923, 1939. It was not really complicated, but really challenge was the movements of eastern border. So as everybody knows, Vilnius, and currently capital and most prospering region, Lithuania, did not belong to Lithuania, and actually we were not able to separate in Polish statistics data for this period for the territory which belongs to Lithuania. So our calculations for interwar period only are for Lithuania in interwar borders. But then we had cross-time comparability problem. Because you have the smaller Lithuania without Vilnius, and you have contemporary Lithuania with Vilnius. And so we were just blessed by the success of the Lithuanian government in lobbying in Brussels to divide Lithuania into 2 NUTS2 regions. Really, we worked on NUTS3 regions level, then in Latvia, 5, we have 2 times more. Just it so happened that by this decision, we have now one region, Western and Central Lithuania, and capital region, Vilnius region. And more or less the territory, not outline, but area in quadratic kilometers coincides perfectly of this Vilnius region, contemporary, with interwar time, Vilnius region. I mean the part of contemporary territory which was within Polish rules. So we just could make comparison between interwar Lithuania and this contemporary region, Western and Central Lithuania, with Vilnius. And next, without Vilnius and with Vilnius. So we get a possibility to use some kind of national experiment. So one with Vilnius and without Vilnius, and for Lithuania we provide 2 versions of analysis, comparing interwar Lithuania with complete contemporary Lithuania and with Lithuania without Vilnius. An interesting discovery is that for this Lithuania without Vilnius, for this Nusval region, Central Western region, inequality remain nearly on the same level, like interwar time. Just so positions of leaders did change. Interwar time, interestingly, most rich was Šiauliai region. Now it's more
bordering Latvia.
Yeah, bordering Latvia. Yeah, not counting of course Klaipėda. Of course, yes, Klaipėda was first, then Šiauliai, then Kaunas. During the first post-communist decades, Klaipėda was first, then was Kaunas, and then Šiauliai was very somewhere below. And only some 5 years ago, in this area, Kaunas did overtake Klaipėda. But this is the relations within this Western Central Lithuania, comparable by territory with interwar Lithuania. But of course, if you take complete Lithuania, Vilnius is always on the top, and contemporary inequalities in Lithuania on national level, they accounted mostly by this prosperity of Vilnius region, by this gap between Vilnius and the rest. But this disparity is not so large as between Riga and rest. Yeah. So much.
Okay, thank you very much. So, okay, my last question to all of you, because I really hope that somebody will watch this video in 2050. And my question is, what will be different in 2050 in Baltic state regions? If we just, it will, of course, I believe in scientists. They will create this time travel machine, and then if we, for example, our panel, we jump to 2050, what will surprise us? Start with you.
Historians are always bad looking into the future because you can only learn about history and not directly from history. 2050, I would guess urbanization on one hand continues, so more regions will be empty, and on the other hand, because of home office, etc., some regions will fill up with people again. Maybe coastal regions, because of the higher quality of life. Yeah. I'm bad in future prognosis.
Well, actually, I already thought something about this question. So I think if this current war in Ukraine will go on and escalate, it will boost the integration of European Union. So we will have United States of Europe, not so in very long time, but maybe already in 2050. We already will have United States of Europe, and in those United States of Europe, Baltic will be a kind of Miami. Miami from those immigrants from, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, and so on. Well, but this is only my personal opinion. And officially, I should tell them that in December last year, our government just accepted official strategy, Lithuania 2050. And I just, as Lithuanian citizen, I'm sending under obligation report that according to older Lithuania 2030 strategy, I know you also have Latvia 2030, we should depend to the first 10 of in Europe. And according to new strategy 2050, we should be among the first five. This is so official standpoint.
This is a very old strategy. We were told this already 20 years ago.
That's the thing. 2050, it's the same distance in time as year 2000 from now, and that's a time that I can actually remember. I think that not much will have changed. That will be the surprising, that we are more or less the same. Yes, in the graphs of GDP, there will be the 3 Baltic states. Maybe Latvia will be on top at that point for a brief moment. Who knows? You know, we have wonderful politicians. But more or less, not much will have changed. We will still have depopulation. The massive migration will not have started yet. Probably there will be some signs. I mean, the climate migration, the economic migration, the migration from war. Yes, that will be to some extent, but not significant. So more or less, we'll be discussing the same problems, facing the same issues, maybe in a bit warmer room.
Number 5, number 10 in Europe. Some ambitions. Yeah. Yes, and we should just take in Europe some poor countries. Okay, Turkey, for example, and then we will achieve already this middle.
Luxembourg and Germany goes away.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Agita.
Okay, I hope and I wish that in 2050 we will have multicultural teams, not only in research projects but also in business, because multicultural teams are providing, they are working more productive and they are developing more innovations. And I hope that we will go up in the index of innovative cities and countries.
I think in terms of economic development, the next 26 years are completely unpredictable. The technological advances of last few years showed, especially in ICT, nowadays in artificial intelligence, it shows such a tremendous possibilities coming up that we even don't know what will happen in general. Many things will change. Many things will change that we now consider to be a norm. And in my instance, that I'm the person who wants to move faster in general, I am very fond of waiting for it. I, in general, hope that I will be alive at 2050, personally, although I'm a male and with not very good habits. So let's see what happens. But in general, I think this will be a tremendous time to live in. For Latvia, for Baltic states, at least for the next decade, it will also be a very hard time because the regional security situation is very bad for us. The investors will unfortunately shy away from us. Even local investors will be looking for diversification. It's a hard years and very responsible years for the public sector to show the best that we can in public sector, that we can be the best ones. That for every single entrepreneur with open heart say you should stay here and work here. You will get the results and you are expected here. That's a very big challenge, but at the same time an opportunity. As I always said, during the worst times we tend to mobilize much more and get better results.
Yeah, and just my prediction perhaps will be, but not on 2050, but already after some years will be some internet-free space or areas in regions, yeah, because should be some like answer to this, what is happening now, technologies. Of course, some kind of people like me, yeah, feel worse and worse, yeah, because of this, yeah, and maybe this will be because now we speak about ecological products in agriculture and so, but and pollution, yeah, but it will be maybe some technologies and internet-free spaces, yeah, somewhere, yeah, some regions will say that our region is first internet-free, yeah, like our region, yeah. Who knows, yeah. But thank you very much for this discussion, Olaf, Martin. Mertelsmann, Zenonas, Norkus, Harijs, Rokpelnis, Agita, Līviņa, and Juris Pūce. Thank you very much. Now we have coffee break, and then we will continue our discussions. Thank you very much.